in as much as you mentioned I was the first one to contact you, I will add my apologies to our chairman as well.
At least you sat close to me.
Well, I'm trying to stay far from them. My question is, Chairman Almy mentioned about the need for a study on this issue of the impact of an income tax on businesses. And you disagreed with her only in terms of how long it might take and what resources would be needed. My question is that House Bill 642 is not the first time that legislation has been introduced involving an income tax in this state. In fact, it goes back a number of years, and then, in fact, you go back 8 or 9 years, almost became law, perhaps. So my question is, why hasn't somebody picked up that baton, you know, and taken on such a study? I would think especially business trade groups would have wanted to do that, since they have long argued that an income tax is detrimental to business activity.
I'm really not sure the answer to your question, but I would imagine it's as part of this in New Hampshire, we do take pride, you know, kind of collective pride in being different. And one way we're different, I know I say this in some of my presentations, is there's only 2 states in the country that doesn't have either a broad-based personal income tax or a broad-based sales tax, and that's New Hampshire and Alaska. You know, Alaska has a lot of oil, and Alaska is a little different. But so we've taken pride in that standing. So whenever a T word is mentioned, the tax word is mentioned, people tend, even, you know, business groups, academics, stay away from doing the detailed analysis. And there hasn't been that much desire from the legislature to have this open discussions about it. And you can see Representative Almy called for an open discussion, and it's been rather controversial.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Professor Gittell, the committee was recently sent a copy of a report done by Mark Ryder that is called The Effects of Personal Income Tax Rates on Individuals and Business Decisions, a Review of the Evidence. I don't know if you're familiar with that study or not, but the conclusion that Mark comes to seems to be that in order to promote the interests of business, you need a regressive tax structure, because that's what prompts people in the business community to make investments in capital and in employment. Do you subscribe to that view, and do you have any comments to make about the need for
I would
regressive?
have to look at that paper, and I don't know if I want to say whether I subscribe to it or not. I think some would suggest that I am subscribing to it through my presentation in the sense that.
Can I ask a follow-up?
We're not getting ideological.
And so, in my mind, when I think about his conclusion, I think back to Professor Laffer and his reasoning that you need to lower tax rates in order to encourage business activity. And to my mind, this is just another play on the same.
Actually, the Laffer curve was that you lower tax rates and you increase tax revenues. And I definitely don't believe in that.
So, I'm sorry?
That was the Laffer curve, was you decrease tax rates and you'll increase tax revenues.
That's correct.
And empirically, it's never been shown that that's the case. And
Okay.
again, that's different than lowering tax rates and encouraging businesses. You know.
In talking about, you know, the need for the study, you're talking perhaps in terms of the economic cycle that we, at this point, had the worst crisis we've seen, and that we need to take a look at this. But I think that there are those people who have said that New Hampshire, even in good times, has had a structural fiscal deficit problem, which we have not addressed, and it makes even in good times problems that we have revenue sources that tend to dry up. I wonder if you want to comment on that.
No, I don't disagree with what you say. I'm saying once you do figure out, you know, revenue structure, you have to think as that use that revenue structure during economic good times. You're going to have a rainy day fund, because even with improved, let's say, revenue structure, when the general economy turns around, you're not going to have the revenue that's adequate to meet those needs that you have at that time. So there's no revenue structure where you're just going to have sort of just-in-time revenue. it depends upon the economic situation. And with the revenue structure, during economic good times, you're gonna have to put away some money, so the economic bad times you have enough. But I didn't talk about the structural issues. When I talk about longer term, thinking about the economic future, that's where the structural issues come in.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Professor, when you gave your list from your Business 101, one of the notions that I did not hear and that is typically used as an argument for an income tax is this notion of fairness, typically defined as the ability of the person to pay. Is that not part of Business 101, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, fairness, you could have a sales tax where you could say it's regressive, but then put in different items within that sales tax, like don't tax necessities, don't tax, clothing sales that are less than $100 to make it less regressive and make it more fair. So, I think fairness is part of any discussion, any decision you make. And that underlies everything that we do, is to make sure it's fair. It's fair not only to us as individuals, but to fair across people in our society. So I don't think that just applies to tax structure. I think that applies to anything the legislature does.
Thank you.